A few years ago, I was at a dinner with a group of physicians, some of the hardest working people I know. One of them said something that stuck with me. He said, I feel like I'm working harder every year and somehow falling further behind. It seemed like everybody agreed with that. And I kept thinking about that on the drive home. The problem wasn't effort. I mean, every one of those people obviously was putting in a ton of real effort. The problem was the system. It was structural. All of that effort I felt seemed like was going into one container, I'd say. And that container, it doesn't scale. I mean, the physicians I've seen actually break out of that trap. Again, they figured out not how to work harder, but they figured out how to build leverage. Not just one, but three kinds. And so if you've ever felt like you're maxing out on what clinical income alone can do for you, you feel like you're spinning your wheels, I want to let you know this episode is for you. So stay tuned.
Welcome to the Passive Income MD podcast, where we talk about creating your ideal life through multiple streams of income. If you enjoy hearing about this stuff, make sure to hit subscribe. Now let's get on with the show.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Passive Income MD podcast. I'm Peter Kim. Again, I'm really glad you're here today, wherever you're listening from, whether this is in your car, you're watching this on YouTube, whatever it might be. Again, I think that this is one of the more useful frameworks we've ever done. I mean, we're talking today about the three types of leverage that every physician should be intentionally building. As you know, leverage is one of my favorite words. It's one of those words that gets used a lot though, and maybe there isn't a lot of clarity around it. So let's spend a moment just defining it. And I want to break it into three forms today and talk about what it actually looks like in practice. Okay, so when I say leverage, it's all about the concept where you have smaller inputs creating larger outcomes or larger outputs, right? Not a transaction where it's a one-to-one trade, right? You trade your hour, you get paid for that hour. I mean, leverage is when you put in work or capital early on or in the beginning or once, and then it just keeps producing long after that. Like when your money works while you sleep, you've probably heard of that concept. When a system might run without you. Again, the goal isn't to stop working altogether. I know that might be your goal, but that really isn't the goal of what I'm talking about here. I mean, most physicians I know don't actually want to stop working. The goal is to make sure what you build outside of clinical work is building something that helps you get to the ideal life that you want. These are assets that maybe compound over time, not just income that covers your expenses this month. So we're going to be talking about three types of leverage. The first type is one that most of us already have, even if we've never framed it this way. It's called career leverage. Career leverage is your specific expertise commands in the marketplace. It's your competitive advantage. It's what you spent a decade becoming as a physician. And again, that created something real. Let's not forget that. You've come a long way. You built a credential, a skill set, a level of trust that the market does pay significantly more for than it pays for generalized labor. I mean, when we always talk about physician incomes and salaries, there's a reason for that. And I believe that's leverage. You made a massive investment in yourself, school loans, and it pays dividends every time you show up for work. But here's the thing that I think most people don't think through. Career leverage has a ceiling. And in medicine, that ceiling can actually compress over time. I think we know that reimbursements can go down, administrative burden goes up. I mean, more of your hours get captured by documentation. I know those numbers are rising, and you spend more time on overhead type stuff rather than actual care. The leverage that you built in training, it gets diluted by the system that you're working in, right? That wasn't designed to reward it in the way you expected. And people, when they figure that out, again, they might get a little cynical. I mean, I'm trying not to be cynical about medicine, but it's just a structural reality that's worth understanding at this point. So practically, career leverage comes down to a few questions. Are you in an environment that actually values your skill set, what you built? Are you developing a reputation or specialty that makes you more valuable over time? Are you protecting your time from the parts of the system that want to erode it, that want to control it? And if you answer those questions well, you preserve and grow your career leverage. But even then, it still has a ceiling, which is exactly why you need the next type of leverage. So this type 2 leverage, we're going to call it investment leverage. Again, it's where your capital does the work for you. Most physicians have investments. You know what I'm talking about, a 401k, a brokerage account, maybe index funds, maybe a real estate deal that you've done. I mean, that's a start. But there's a difference between having investments and then having investment leverage. Leverage is when your capital is intentionally deployed into assets that produce returns without requiring ongoing time from you. That's what we call passive income. Passive income distributions, appreciation over time where the value goes up. I mean, that money works and you don't have to show up for it to happen. One of my favorite vehicles for that, of course, is real estate. I think it's one of the most accessible versions of this for most physicians, whether it's through a rental property, syndication, investing in real estate fund. I mean, when it's structured well, you put in capital and someone else manages the operations and then you receive the distributions. I mean, that's what we call investment leverage, income that comes without you having to put in more time or more money. I always tell this story. I remember the first time I got a check from a passive real estate investment. I was so proud of it. I showed my wife. It was in our bank account online. And guess what? It was a whole whopping $47. And I know that sounds like nothing to most people. Maybe in absolute terms it was, but what it meant to me was something completely different. That $47 came in without me seeing a single patient or having to do an epidural, without me being on call, doing a moonlighting shift. It came in because I put the money that I had worked hard for to work. And I remember thinking, okay, this is real. This can happen. Now I just need to build more of it. And that's the whole mindset shift. You're not looking for a crazy get rich quick scheme, a windfall like that. You're building a base of assets that produce income over time. Like the early numbers are small. The compounding is what changes the math over time. I want to tell you about something that we've been building that I think is extremely valuable. Now, if you're a physician who's been wondering whether there's a better way to practice, one that gives you more autonomy, more flexibility, and less of the administrative grind, this is for you. The Leverage and Grow Summit, Spring Edition, is back, and our 2026 theme is Modern Practice Models. We designed this event around one question. What does medicine look like when you build the structure? Concierge, DPC, cash-based, telehealth. These aren't fringe ideas anymore. They're working models built by real physicians who got tired of the treadmill and decided to do something different. We're bringing in 6 doctors who have actually made the transition. Not people with theories, not consultants, physicians who actually did it. The format is intentionally interactive. One-on-one interviews, live Q&As, and on the final night, a panel where these physicians talk openly about what worked, what didn't, and what they do differently. 3 nights, March 17th through the 19th, 2026, 2 hours each night. You're gonna wanna be there live. You'll leave with a clear-eyed view of the models that are working right now and what it would actually take to explore one for yourself. And it's completely free. No travel, no hotel, just focused, high-quality conversations. So register today to secure your spot and watch your inbox for the full speaker lineup. Now, if you've been asking yourself, what if? This is where you start finding real answers. So 2 things worth keeping in mind. First, true investment leverage means it's actually passive. And again, there's a spectrum of passive, what it means. Obviously, if you're fielding calls from tenants at 10 p.m., that's not really leverage. But being a limited partner, maybe in a well-run syndication, maybe you're investing your money in a debt fund. Maybe you are investing in real estate yourself, but you've got great property management or asset management that helps you run those things so you don't have to be on call all the time. I mean, knowing where your investments actually sit on that spectrum, that's really powerful. Second, there's always a learning curve, and it matters. I mean, the mistakes that I see physicians make aren't because you don't have the intelligence. I mean, they're the mistakes that happen when, again, really smart analytic people step into an area, a domain, they haven't built an expertise up in yet. They haven't studied yet. We all know if we spend time on something to study, we can do well. But due diligence of these type of investments, and that's the most important part, requires understanding of deal structure, of vetting operators. And these things are absolutely learnable, but they take a little time and intention to be learned. The point is this: investment leverage breaks the trading time for money type situation. Your income is no longer capped by the hours you work. I mean, that's the shift that changes everything. Okay, now let's jump into leverage number 3. This is one of my favorite ones, business leverage. And this is where I've seen really successful physicians, if they can build this 3rd type of leverage, in addition to the other 2, that's where the big changes happen. Business leverage is when you build a system or a platform that generates value, again, beyond what you personally produce or invest in. And when I say build a business, I know the reaction. I mean, people say this all the time. I mean, I don't have time. I didn't go to business school. I don't want a second job. All of that makes sense, and it's reasonable to think that way. But here's what I've actually observed over time. The physicians who have the most genuine options in their careers, I would say most of them have built some sort of business leverage that creates options. Again, it's not always the biggest companies. Sometimes it's a consulting practice, leveraging their expertise and build a community or a course. They built a media presence that generates passive income. They've built a partnership in a practice, or they built ownership of some of these things that they help build. The common thread is that they created something that doesn't require their direct labor every time it generates value. And the reason this matters alongside investment leverage and even career leverage is that they all reinforce each other. Business leverage can create capital. That capital, along with your career leverage, that capital gets deployed as investment leverage. All of this stuff starts to compound and work together. Now, I've seen this play out in our community. There are physicians who started just sharing what they were doing, honestly, just like I was when I started Passive Income MD, just like the way you talk to a colleague. And over a few years, they built something real. I've seen people who have completely changed their schedule, the way they control their time, their clinical time, by building these other sources of income, by creating this leverage. They have income that funded investments and investments that reduce dependence on clinical income. They've created options that simply weren't there before. One important distinction that I need to make in this case is that you just don't want another job. You don't build a business to necessarily create another job. You already have one right now that's probably paying pretty decently, that is steady. If you end up building something that requires the same amount of time and energy or even more effort to maintain, again, that's a second job, not leverage. So the design matters, the systems, understanding how to delegate. These are all what separate business leverage from what I like to call business burden. So here's what I really want to leave you with. Each type of leverage is valuable on its own. Career leverage, it protects your clinical income. It allows you to stay successful in that area. Investment leverage breaks that income ceiling, that whole time for money trade. Business leverage creates a vehicle that generates income and funds more investment for you. When you have all three of those things working together, that's when something pretty magical happens. Income from those areas funds your investments. Those investments produce distributions, additional clinical income that reduce your dependence on the money that you make in the hospital. Your business, if you build one, creates income flexibility that can also change how you think about your career. Each one makes the other one more powerful. And the truth is, you don't have to build all three at once. I mean, most people shouldn't. So most people are working on their career leverage. Build that. Do the best job there to protect it. Then layer in some of your investment leverage as you generate income. And lastly, the more advanced stage, I would say at some point, is to explore business leverage. When you have the capacity, you have the clarity, you built up those other places. But I would say overall, if you think about keeping the vision of all three and you can ultimately execute on that, that's when the math actually changes. That's when physicians go from feeling trapped to feeling like they have control, they have choices. And I think that's the feeling that most people are pursuing in medicine. Not because they want to quit medicine, it's because they want to feel like they're doing it because they love it, because they want to do it, not have to do it. That's what I've always been working towards. That was always my goal. And obviously that's what I want for everyone listening to this. So if these things sound appealing to you and you want to go deeper, we have our summits. We got the Leverage and Growth Summit. I have to let you know about it. That's exactly where we take these kind of frameworks and we get into the specifics. We have amazing communities around this, the Leverage and Growth Accelerator, as some of our other communities that we have. Surround yourself with other people that are doing this. Surround yourself with people who have done it, that you can gain inspiration from, learn from. And I have to make a small ask. If this episode was useful for you, share this with one other person, maybe one other physician you know who's also thinking about this stuff. Maybe it could add value to them. And that's how we build this community, one person at a time. Thank you for being here. We'll see you at the next one. Talk soon.
Enjoy the show? Let me know by dropping a review in the podcast app you're listening to us in. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit subscribe. Join thousands of physicians who are also on this journey to creating their ideal lives through multiple streams of income. Learn more at our website, passiveincomemd.com. Thanks again for allowing me to be a part of your journey. See you next time.